And welcome back. Here we go. Bounce back candidates. We have 4 quarterbacks. 1 from Heath, 3 from Jamie. The 3 from Jamie are Deshaun Watson, Russell Wilson, and Aaron Rodgers. Heath, do you disagree with any of those?
No, I mean, I think they're all bounce back candidates. I don't anticipate any of the 3 of them currently being top 10 quarterbacks this year, but Watson would be the one who could obviously, that I think would be most likely.
Watson, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Jamie, do you think any of them will be top 10 quarterbacks, and who's the most likely if not?
Well, I have Watson ranked 9th right now, so yes, I do think he'll be a top 10 quarterback. Rodgers, I think, has a little bit higher ceiling than Russell Wilson, because if he's anything close to what he was 2 years ago, I mean, clearly that's a superstar fantasy option. So Russ has a lot to prove. I hope he's not washed or washed up, depending on what you like to say. But there's clearly paths for all 3 of these guys. Watson mostly just playing a full season, and then Rodgers, refreshed out of the cave, and Russell Wilson with a new coach.
Yeah, so Rodgers was QB 4 per game in 2021. Wilson wasn't great in 2021, but he was great for, I think it was only 4 games before his injury.
And he was great after the finger healed as well. Didn't he finish hot as well?
Finished pretty well. I don't remember if it was, great, but it was good. It was certainly good. He just had a few games right after the injury where he came back too soon and he stunk. But what do you think for Watson, Wilson, and Rodgers? What's the highest you could see them finishing realistically?
Watson 5, and then Rodgers and Wilson 10 through 12.
I'd say Watson 4 and Wilson 8, Rodgers 12.
Okay, Jamie, convince me that Russell Wilson is not washed up.
Sean Payton taking that job, knowing that he's tied to Russell Wilson for the next probably 2 to 3 years. So I don't think, despite the big money situation that he got, the big salary that he got, that's obviously a huge allure to come back and coach for that franchise. But, you're tying yourself to a quarterback at his age, coming off the season that he just had. If they are able to keep their receiving core intact by adding Tim Patrick and another year of Greg Dulcich, it's still a very good group with a run game that might be suspect if Javonte Williams isn't there. So good offensive line, great coach and play caller, very good weapons. I think Russell Wilson just hopefully can recreate some of his past abilities and bounce back to not the level that he was at in Seattle, but hopefully pretty close to that.
Why not, though? Why not the level? Why not the level he was at in Seattle?
I just think age. He's certainly not going to run anymore. So you lose that. And look, he just might be not the same guy. He had a lot of flexibility, a lot of freedom in Seattle. To sort of save the day in fourth quarter situations, a lot of comeback situations. That was sort of his specialty, and maybe he got away from that a little bit. Maybe it wasn't Nathaniel Hackett. Maybe it was the play calling. We certainly saw the offense look better when Nathaniel Hackett was gone, and so Sean Payton coming in might be able to help him get back to that level. I just don't. I wouldn't put that expectation out there. So he's one of my favorite take a chance on a second quarterback type of guy, because if he does bounce back, you'll be happy to have him on your team.
This is a moment where I want to bring something up, but I'm nervous that Jamie already brought it up. Did you mention that they signed Mike McGlinchey?
Well, I said the offensive line, but yeah, McGlinchey's more of a run blocker than he is a pass blocker, but he's certainly an upgrade on the offensive line for sure.
Okay, that was a big offseason acquisition for the Denver Broncos at right tackle. Heath, why should I buy into an Aaron Rodgers bounce back when, if he goes to the Jets, his offensive coordinator will be the same guy that was so bad for Russell Wilson last year, Nathaniel Hackett?
He is familiar with Nathaniel Hackett and has had success working with Nathaniel Hackett. Russell Wilson was a superstar quarterback going to work with someone he'd never worked with before, and so they had to make that work, and they couldn't. But I am not particularly optimistic about an Aaron Rodgers bounce back either. I think it's more like I could see it happening. I don't want to downsell like if it happens how it could be. The the longer this goes on and the more we hear about the last couple of years in Green Bay, I worry that it's just going to be a disaster.
Why?
I just don't like, because I think if it's easy to look in the rearview mirror and say, so it was a 39-year-old quarterback who said he was 90% retired and couldn't get along with the team that he was on, and he went to the Jets, and we thought that was going to make everything better. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, there's, it's hard for him to not bounce back from QB 23. I think we can agree on that. But the question is, I mean, is he going to be top 15? I guess what's better about the Jets this year than the Packers last year? Are they more talented? I mean, you got like a second-year Garrett Wilson. That's good. Plus, you got Lazard. But probably a better defense. Maybe a run-oriented team. I don't know. Is the situation better, or is it just Rodgers is going to just be better because he's Aaron Rodgers, and we've seen this before from him. We saw him struggle a few years ago, and then he had back-to-back MVPs.
And it was a change, right? It was a change in coach. It was a change in motivation, if you want to put that there, with the drafting of Jordan Love. I think, look, he's not going to be 16.3 points per game. He's probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 20. And so if you can buy into Garrett Wilson, I think we're all excited about him. We're all taking him as a potential top 10 wide receiver or somewhere in the first 3 rounds, depending on how you want to qualify it. And then it's a matter of what's around the group. And I think also, look, you have to take into account new play caller, but when it wasn't Zach Wilson, how much did they throw the ball last year for the Jets? Quite a bit, And so if Rodgers has that opportunity, which was kind of lacking even in his MVP season, he wasn't throwing the ball like you would expect an MVP type quarterback to throw. He's just so efficient. He doesn't turn the ball over, and he has a lot of touchdowns. And so if he can get back to that touchdown range, if he can be a 30-plus touchdown guy, if he could be a 4,500-yard passer again, limit the interceptions, he's not going to be an MVP, but he certainly has the ability to be a starting fantasy quarterback. And so it's just a matter of what your expectations are. Again, shouldn't be drafting him as a high-end starter. You might not even want to draft him as a starter to begin with. I know Heath doesn't want to do that. I have him as a low-end starter. He's 12th for me, but he's in that group of Kirk Cousins and Daniel Jones and Russell Wilson and, some of these other guys there. And so it's just a matter of what your expectations are. So, he's not someone you should feel extremely confident in, but I would confidently say he's going to perform better than he did a year ago. To what extent, we'll find out.
Okay, let's talk about Justin Herbert then, Heath. He went from QB3 per game to QB15 per game, and he still threw the ball a ton. What do you think the impact of Kellen Moore will be on Justin Herbert?
I would expect, even if Kellen Moore wasn't there, you can look at it and just see Herbert as the free space, as the bounce back candidate, because he's not 35 or 39 years old. And he just a 20 guy who, as a 24-year-old, saw a big drop in his touchdown rate and a big drop in his yards per attempt. So I would have just expected his numbers to bounce back regardless. But they did not let Herbert throw down the field very much. I think we'll see more of that. I think we will see his yards per attempt improve in a big way. His average intended air yards will improve in a big way. I wouldn't be surprised if the completion percentage drops just a little bit, but I think he could be a more efficient Dak when Dak was at his best with Kellen Moore. We don't know how much last year of the Packers changing things up was Mike McCarthy, but I think a lot of it was. I expect more of what Dak was with Kellen Moore the 2 years before.
Another thing for Herbert is he hurt, was it his ribs early in the year?
Yes.
Yeah. And then he stopped running. So he'll probably have close to double his rushing yards, roughly 175 last year to about 350. I don't remember exactly what it was.
No, it was 147 last year, which was half of what he had in 2021. He had 302 in 2021. I think 250 to 300 is fair.
Okay,
I think the thing you look at is it's not just his health. The offensive line got banged up again last year. This team just annually injuries, both sides of the ball. Just obviously it makes Chiefs fans happy, but it ruins what the excitement for what Chargers fans are and can be. But I think right now you just look at it, it's almost the offseason has so far worked out very well. Upgraded offensive coordinator, keeping Keenan Allen, keeping Austin Eckler for now. I mean, if he has all of his weapons in place, and I know Heath said this on a previous show, Josh Palmer as the third receiver is maybe in the conversation for, not the best third receiver, but, he's not far down the list, when you look at what his potential could be. And
Really?
so if Mike Williams can stay healthy, Eckler can stay there, and Keenan Allen stays healthy, I mean, it's a pretty good group. And even to go back to last year, he lost Keenan Allen for half the season,
Yeah.
and Mike Williams for a good portion of it too, so just having everybody on the field, I think, is a big plus for him. So, this is going to be the guy, I think, when we look back at the 2023, postmortem, and we say, why wasn't he once again a top 3 quarterback? Because he just has that much upside.
Yeah. I was pretty disappointed in Josh Palmer, actually, because I thought he'd have a better year with all the opportunities he had with Allen out the first half of the year, with Williams out. In fact, Mike Williams and Keenan Allen played 4 games together in which neither of them left with an injury. That's all Justin Herbert had his top 2 weapons for. 4 games. But I've brought this up before. I think some people just don't believe in his weapons. They don't think Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer is a very good receiving core. Yes.
I don't know. Like, I could understand not thinking it's one of the best receiving cores, but I don't understand what the argument would be that Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Josh Palmer is not a very good receiving core. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It's speed. They're not a dynamic, explosive offense.
I understand, but like Keenan Allen's a perennial, like, star wide receiver. Mike, I don't understand.